Hey guys, here's a fun little game. Continuing my series of playing players rated around 1,000 and so, trying out different openings. I'm just giving you guys different examples of the kinds of opening mistakes or general errors that people below 1,000 can make, so that you can avoid them in your own games. So this is a 15-10 game. My opponent's rated 8-1-6. Alright, so we'll start. I've got the white pieces. I play e4, e5, and I think let's play a Danish. So I play d4. The Danish Gambit is coming. This is actually called the centre game. Black accepts the d pawn. I offer another pawn on c3. He accepts that one. And now we're going for the full Danish. We're going bishop to c4, offering up the third pawn. Black here accepts the pawn, which is commonly done, particularly at lower levels, and I recapture with my queen's bishop. So now we've got these two deadly bishops, really slicing the board in half there. So the idea of gambits is that you give up material in return for getting the upper hand in development. We've certainly got that in this position. So knight to f6 is played, which is very common. There's a pawn hanging there. Black's thinking, you know, how many pawns can I get, possibly? So then I bring out my queen to b3. So now we've got the queen and the bishop staring down at f7. Now my opponent plays, you know, some good moves here. This is a very typical move in this position. Also now notice that we've got the knight and the queen looking at the e4 pawn, but one quite common motif in the Danish is to play your knight out to c3, right? So that puts one defender on e4, and then sometimes what you'll find is knight takes e4, knight takes e4, and then queen takes the knight, right, with check, and then the king simply dodges to the side to f1, so the queen's on here. This knight's gone, right? So the king's over there, and then if black isn't careful, he's going to run into rook to e1, pinning the queen and winning the queen. So I don't think that happens in this game, but I bring my knight out to c3, so this is generally a good idea. It puts the knight just one hop away from the queen, or two hops away from the queen, and also away from c7. So black's got to watch his step, not to fall into this, or even maybe knight to b5 coming into c7, which might force the queen back, all the way back, and then that falls into this. You see, this is what you get with gambits. You know, you get more opportunities to attack and cause trouble. So knight takes, queen takes, king dodges, right? Now my opponent, rated 8-1-6, has a good think about this, 35 seconds, moves the queen out of the way, where it's achieving two things, okay? It's avoiding the pin from the rook, and it's defending the f7 pawn. So well played black. I come in with a check anyway, and the king here dodges. Now, that's taken away one of the two defenders off f7, so I can now go in with my bishop, grab f7, and I'm now 2 pawns behind. Now, queen can't capture, so we have a pawn push. I'm not really sure of the point of this move. I mean, it doesn't help this bishop to get out on the board, and it certainly doesn't help this knight to get out on the board. So slightly unusual move there. But the reason is actually, obviously, rook to e8 would be checkmate if he didn't have an escape square. So I think that, yeah, it's pretty much forced. There you go. So rook to e8 anyway, forced the king into there. And now bishop to e5 with check. And now the king is starting to look very short of squares. There's only one possible move, which is d6, and now the bishop just drops back to g3. So this pawn remains pinned. But look how many pieces I've got now, buzzing around this black king and queen. The queen comes across to try and exchange off, Black is technically a couple of pawns in front, so, but you can't say that black is in a commanding position in the game. But nevertheless, I decide to exchange the queens, double the pawns, and also open up a line to the king. But my king, this knight, and this rook are actually kind of in each other's way. The king's in the way, really, so I do need to find a way to get that king out. So I start to bring my knight out. Black's king comes across, and I just drop my rook back. So black's got this very awkward, completely isolated d pawn now. It's got doubled pawns on the b file. So really being 2 pawns in front and also with no ability to castle, and both rooks, both bishops and a knight still in the starting blocks, you've got to favour white at this point in time. So I bring my rook across. This pawn's currently undefended. The king comes across to attack my bishop, and I just grab the pawn. Now the bishop comes out, but this is a bit of a mistake because it's undefended b7, and behind it the rook on a8. I don't capture straight away though. First I throw in a check, because I think it would be great if the king came to either of these squares. Then I could capture very, very easily with a discovered check, and in fact that's what the king does. Goes to d6, bishop takes b7 with check, the rook's going to fall, the rook falls, the knight comes out, and now this is another error. So basically bringing that knight out to there in line with the king, right, in a position where it's already attacked once, just quite honestly invites rook to c2, forcing the king to move. And now I grab another piece. So now all of a sudden, from being 2 pawns down, white is 8 points in front. A full rook and a knight. And both sides have 4 pawns. So the king runs away, bishop comes in with check, king runs away, and now I decide to kick the black bishop away, comes in with an attack on the rook. I play a3 with check, because really this pawn is not going to be a game winner for me, so I don't mind sacrificing that pawn. Rook comes across to a6. It's just a lot of fun, really. I mean, I didn't play a perfect game. According to the engine, there were ways of winning this quicker, but I'm just having fun chasing this poor king all over the board. And now I move my g pawn forward so that I can move my king to g2 and bring my other rook into the game. And really, when you've got 2 rooks, 2 bishops and a knight all attacking a poor king, the king has really no chance in the game. Bishop comes out. It's not really threatening anything there, but it does come with a discovered attack by the rook on my bishop, so I move my bishop back. Pawn starts to make a break for it. I grab another pawn. Rook comes out, and that's a blunder, and because he's moved into the path of my bishop. And now there's only a few more moves really, and at this point, so this isn't actually checkmate, because, so let's map out the squares where the king can't go. Right, there's a lot where it can't move. Can't go there, obviously can't go to any of it on its own pieces, and can't go there or here or here, right? So the king does have 1 square. So let's say king goes to there, then I think that would be checkmate. In that situation, yeah, it would. That would be checkmate. So black resigned at that point. So if you're looking for a very, very spicy opening to play against anyone rated, under 1500 really, at the very top level, the Danish Gambit is viewed as not really sound. There is a kind of a refutation line for it, but no one that you play is going to know that line. But if you remember that move order at the start, you will get to play it a lot against beginners and against improving players, and it can be a whole heap of fun. But if you are of a nervous disposition, I don't think it's probably the opening for you. But it's certainly, a whole heap of fun when it goes your way. So there you go. That's how to use the Danish Gambit to slaughter an 800 rated player. See you later.